Buenos dias.
Good morning. Good morning.
So I'm State Representative Lisa Hernandez. I'm the representative of the 24th District, which covers La Villita, Cicero, Berwyn, Stickney, Riverside, and Brookfield. So I have the city suburban area. Welcome to the immigration session. Very pleased to see a very nice crowd here. I've been covering this, or I should say moderating this session over the years for, I would say maybe the past 3 or so. I have been very happy to announce when we've been accomplished some really highly successful initiatives to our community. The first being the in-state tuition in Illinois, so students highly a great success there. The temporary driver's license, I know you all, huge initiative that impacts our immigrant community. The DREAM Act, another educational opportunity. And now we're headed towards the Access Bill. So another educational opportunity for undocumented to continue on with their education. So that is in the coming session, and I'm looking at, to see that this is going to be successful. So Illinois has really been viewed as a state that has really been ahead in terms of how our immigrant community has the impacts, the successes, so that immigrants in the state of Illinois are more welcoming, they're living a better, more quality of life, and that's based on these initiatives that we've been so successful. I do see here a few, and I have to recognize them. When I spoke earlier in the presentation this morning about the Access Bill, this bill in particular has a lot to do with the tremendous efforts of the students, especially out at UIC. I see that there are a few here. I just want to shout out for them. Thank you very much, because you are the ones that are inspiring us and giving us the strength. Thank you very much. So what about the presentation? Is Mr. Marco Antonio Torres, how about it? Was that incredible? He certainly put things in perspective. I have to tell you, I have a story. I have a grandchild who's 18 months, and I am just extremely overwhelmed how she takes the iPad or my iPhone and she knows how to turn it off, how to go into the next icon. It's 18 months. So it's very true that when we talk about the digital era, if you haven't read the factoid sheet, you need to take a look at this. So my understanding is this year, 1 million millennial Latinos turn 18. So what does that tell you? I mean, it's an increasing population, but this is the pool that has grown with the technology advances. So there's a lot of expectation that we're looking at this particular population. But what we are seeing too is that there is still a gap here, all right? That we need the tools necessary to keep our young people up to date. And so what's interesting, what we want to do in this conference is examine what technology or how technology is being used and how to deliver, whether it's educational opportunities, access to health care, economic opportunities. It's, we have to take a good examination. This particular population, Latino population, is very smartphone savvy. There's an understanding that in order to get to internet access, I think about 67% they're saying of Latinos use smartphones to get to the internet. So that's pretty interesting, and that's something that we got to keep in mind as we're making policy on how this is going to affect. We have a great panel, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about just that, we're going to examine how technology affects in terms of delivery in various ways. Some of our experts here on the panel are going to do that in the area of immigration, right? How does technology affect immigration? All right, and so we have some wonderful speakers. We have Fred Tsao, and who will be speaking first. Then we have, I got this backwards. Terry, who will be speaking next, Terry Ross. And then we have Carolyn Talbert, who will be speaking next, and then Isabel Martinez. So we're going to start with Fred. I just want to tell you a little bit about Fred, and if those who don't know him, I'm sure that many of you do know him, expert in immigration. He is certainly the person I go to when I need to get the details in terms of the initiatives, in particularly right now, DAPA. I go to Fred. He's the expert. So Fred is currently Senior Policy Counsel at the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. In this position, he provides technical support, trainings, and presentations on immigration-related topics to service providers, immigrant community organizations, and others who work with immigrants. He also provides updates and analysis of changes in immigration policies and procedures to ICER members and allies, and assists with the coalition's legislative advocacy efforts, a self-described recovering attorney. Fred practiced law at the Rockford office of Prairie State Legal Services, where he worked after receiving his law degree from the University of Michigan. He has also worked with the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois, the Chicago Anti-Hunger Federation, and the Missouri Public Interest Research Group. A native of Chicago, Fred is the son of immigrants from China and has had a lifelong concern with immigration issues. Please welcome Fred Tsao.
Okay. Thanks, Rep. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. I'm actually going to speak from here because I'm going to be mercifully brief. But I want to make a few opening remarks, just to kind of flesh out the introduction to this topic a bit more. But actually, before I do that, I know that this is the immigration session, so I'm sure that there'll be lots of other questions, not necessarily pertaining to the topic of technology. So I'm hoping that we'll have quite a bit of time after the presentations. If you have further questions regarding any recent developments in immigration world. Obviously, immigration is an incredibly hot topic these days in any number of aspects. Not all of them positive, So I definitely want to make sure that we have time to discuss. Anybody happen to know the significance of today, November 20th? Okay, today is the one-year anniversary of President Obama's announcement of executive action. Okay, so which means it's the one-year anniversary of DAPA and expanded DACA. And it just so happens we're here today. At this conference to mark this anniversary. The prospect of 5 million people throughout the United States being able to apply for DAPA or expanded DACA, including 280,000 people in Illinois, means that we as community organizations, as service providers, as law firms, law offices, have a huge challenge on our hands so far as making sure that people in the community, people who could benefit from these programs, people who could move forward through their lives, get work permits, improve their prospects for the future, have the information that they're going to need in order to get the help that they need and be able to apply and receive this benefit. So that's posed a challenge for really all the people on this panel and beyond as to how to respond. How do we make sure that we're getting information out to the community. How do we communicate? What exactly are these requirements for DAPA and DACA? Who qualifies? Who doesn't? Who may be left behind? What do we do with what do we do with situations where people are left behind? All that is just became really important over the past year or so. I'm hoping that we'll have some really good discussion regarding the uses of technology, specifically websites, text messaging systems, other forms of communication and information sharing that that can be incredibly useful for getting this information out. Now, technology is not the only way, and it's certainly not a sufficient way to address the needs of the entire community. So, Isabel is going to be speaking as well regarding what still needs to happen, even though our communities are becoming increasingly more sophisticated technologically. There's still the digital divide is still there. So how do we address that? And Isabel will be making some comments regarding that topic as well. Speaking of DAPA and DACA, in case you all haven't heard yet, the Justice Department just this morning filed a request for the Supreme Court to review that Fifth Circuit decision, further continuing the block on DAPA and DACA. So now it's up to the Supreme Court to determine whether they're going to hear this case and review this decision. I won't editorialize here, but reviews this decision, and it's certainly our hope that the Supreme Court will take up this case and issue a decision before it finishes up its term in June. So we are on our way. Okay, so I'm going to close out my remarks here and turn it over to my fellow panelists.
So next we have Terry Ross. Now Terry, after serving at the Illinois Legal Aids Online, is that correct? As outreach coordinator for 1.5 years, Terry was promoted to program director in December of 2009. As program director, she leads the Illinois Legal Aids Online content, technology, and outreach staff. She fosters strategic partnerships with local and national leaders and groups, pursues innovations, and leads development of new and transformation of existing products and services. She is the 2009 recipient of the Chicago Bar Foundation Anderson Fellowship. Prior to her ILAO work, Terry was a staff attorney at Prairie State Legal Services. She is a graduate of the DePaul College of Law and Northwestern University. Terry has the unfortunate distinction of being the sole and non-redhead in her family. Terry, give her a warm welcome.
Thanks. I have my husband and I have two girls who are redheads, so yeah.
Go figure.
I want to get a sense of who's in the room in terms of who makes up this audience, right? So can you tell me how many of you are students?
Oh, nice.
How many are in government of some kind? A couple of people. Social service? A few more. Any educators? A few. Anybody in technology? Nobody. Okay. All right. So to get a few things out of the way, I am an attorney. I am not an immigration attorney. I have never practiced immigration. And I'm not currently practicing. What I do is I work at an organization that provides legal information to people so that they can resolve their legal problems and find legal answers. And the way that my organization does that is through technology. So I'll be talking a little bit about that. I'll demonstrate the resources that we've developed, and sorry, can everybody hear me? Sorry.
It's being recorded, so.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm used to walking around when I present a little bit more. I'll try to stay still. Another thing is I don't speak Spanish, so my apologies. Everybody at the conference keeps saying "Buenos dias," and so that's my Spanish. Buenos dias. Okay. All right. How many of you in the room are 30 years or under? Okay, and if you don't have a smartphone, if you're in that group who just raised your hand and you don't have a smartphone, will you raise your hand? Okay.
Okay.
So this number, 86%, is from a research group called the Pew Internet and the American Life group. And they do a ton of research and studies on how people use technology. And it's a really great resource. This number is, I think, a year or two old. 86% of people age 30, of adults, so 19 to 30, own a smartphone in the United States. 86%. In this room, 0%, right? So why technology? And you heard some of this from our opening speaker this morning, who gave a great presentation. Technology enables, right? It breaks down barriers. It connects us. It gives us a voice, right? So here's another number. This is the number of people who have come to view, to consume immigration content in English or Spanish in 2015 on the websites, the statewide Illinois websites, which are illinoislegalaid.org and ayudalegalil.org. That's the number of people who are looking at immigration content just in 2015. So that's January 1st through yesterday. Almost 10,000, almost 100,000 people looking at immigration content. So technology can be leveraged to open doors, right? And the mission of my organization is, in fact, to increase access to justice through the innovative use of technology. And so you will hear from me sort of how we can leverage technology in interesting ways to reach more people. And Isabel, will sort of give you the counterpoint as to where technology is not going to be the answer for everyone, right? We know that there are some barriers that technology cannot overcome, and in some cases, it puts up barriers, right? So, but these are ways that technology can break down barriers, right? So geography. If we can access services on our handheld device and don't have to drive somewhere, then that's a huge barrier that's out of the way. Time of day. Is the office closed? Oh, it doesn't matter. Look, this website's open 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? The information's there. Language. So there are all kinds of tools that are emerging. Translation, automated translation, machine translation is becoming better and better. There's better and better tools that are giving us better translations. We offer information, legal information, in both English and Spanish. And I'm happy to talk more offline if those of you are interested in sort of how we do that. But it's a two-step process. One is the machine translation, and then one is an actual person who's fluent and who looks at the content. Disability technology can be leveraged to overcome folks who have disabilities. And then income and education. So one of the other things that our friends at the Pew Research Center tell us is that people who are accessing technology tools are doing them at a rate, particularly in the younger population, that doesn't depend at all on education or income, right? So that's significant, because it used to be that the only people who used the internet were people who made $75,000 or more, or people who had a college education or greater, and that is no longer true. And that is because of the smartphone, because people have a supercomputer in their pockets, right? And how do we leverage that to increase access to justice in this case? to better our immigration services. All right, so this number is the number of people who have visited ayudalegalil.org in 2015. So that's pretty significant. That's 250,000 people. We offer information on that website, not just in immigration, but in all civil legal areas, right? So there's information on there about divorce, about debt, bankruptcy, driver's licenses, traffic, small claims, all kinds of issues, public benefits, housing, eviction, foreclosure, domestic violence, and so on. So tech equals access. So as I said, I already told you our mission. We have 4 statewide websites. I'm just going to be talking about the 2 today that I've mentioned already. One is IllinoisLegalAid.org and Ayuda Legal IL, which is its Spanish counterpart. We also have self-help centers around the state where you have partnered with courthouses and public libraries to create points of public access. So for people who don't have internet access or don't have reliable internet access, they can connect with folks to be able to print off forms and get the help they need. One word about information versus advice. And the reason why this is important in this context is that immigration is law, right? So when you talk about anything that is legal, there is a distinction in the legal profession that's very important, and that is the difference between advice and information. Now, to the everyday person, it's not immediately evident, but to people who practice law, this is a really, really important distinction because it goes to something, a professional responsibility that we as lawyers have, and something called the unauthorized practice of law, right? So, the other reason why this is important is that legal services, so the advice or representation that you get from an attorney is not easily scalable because it is a one-to-one relationship, right? So you have an attorney, you are their client, it's a one-to-one relationship. When you talk about information, which is the same for everyone, right, then it scales infinitely. And that's what we can do with the technology, is at the information piece, right? Technology can be leveraged to certainly improve legal services from the standpoint of the delivery of advice and representation. But if we're talking about the scale, the information is the important thing. So, 450. Sadly, this is the number of legal aid attorneys in the state of Illinois. 450. So people like Carrie Talbert and all the people that she works with. People at Prairie State Legal Services and other organizations. There's only 450 people to serve all of the people with civil legal problems who are low income, who are disabled, and who are elderly in the state of Illinois. That's a huge problem. There's a huge supply and demand issue there. And again, one way that we can leverage technology is to scale it, right? So let's get the information out there to people. If they can't find an attorney, they can't afford an attorney, then let's at least arm them with some tools so that they can better help themselves. So what you see here is, this is a graphic we did a few years ago, which illustrates how technology can scale. And this follows a woman whose name is Doris. She needs a divorce. She goes on to the website, and you see the numbers there. You can follow her path. We offer divorce forms on our website, which are free. You don't have to pay for them. They work the same way as TurboTax. You enter the information in, it generates your forms for you, you print them off, you sign them, you copy them, you take them to the courthouse and file them. And so that demonstrates sort of the scalability that technology can have and that legal information can have. So I just want to briefly show you what the websites look like. So you can actually see them for yourselves. I encourage you to go out there and see. Everyone, and I'm sure all the panelists can agree that when people find out that you're an attorney, everyone says, "Oh, I have a question. I had a contractor who did some work for my home, and they didn't do it properly. And what's my legal recourse? And so I say, there's this website you can go to and see. I don't practice in that area. So this is Illinois Legal Aid on IllinoisLegalAid.org. This is the homepage. Most people don't ever see our homepage. They end up coming to us directly from Google and end up on content directly. So, whoops. So I'm going to explain what this pop-up is at the end. So right now I'm going to say no thanks. And so here's a sample of the content that we offer. We have, I would say, above 20 articles and other resources, videos. We have some great videos on immigration, law, all different kinds, U visa, green card, DACA, driver's licenses for immigrants, all kinds of issues. So I encourage you to go in and take a look. I want to show you a sample of what so our video content, again, looks like this. We have 3 really great videos that were created with the help of substantive experts like Carrie, one of which is this one, and there's 2 others, which are linked to here. So one is crime victims, so specific to U visa, and then next one is about detention. Really great videos. They're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and they actually get more viewing on YouTube than they do on our websites. Again, that's the social media. These videos are also in English and in Spanish. And also, if you're on the English site and you want to see the Spanish version, there's a link right here that says Ver en Español. If you click that, then you get taken to the Spanish website, same content. There it is. So I won't play it for you. One more thing briefly is what this pop-up is, and this connects to Carrie. Connects to Carrie. It connects to Carrie's organization.
Yeah.
So this is what's known as the online access system. This is a way for people to apply for services online at legal aid organizations, and we created this with the help of 4 legal organizations in Illinois, one of which is the National Immigrant Justice Center. What this system does is it enables people to apply online. So even if the office is not open, if the phone lines are closed, people can still fill an online application, and it gets transferred to Carrie's organization, National Immigrant Justice Center. We also have it with Prairie State Legal Services, LAF, and Land of Lincoln Legal Assistance, which serves the southern part of Illinois. It is currently available in Spanish only for National Immigrant Justice Center. They're the only people who have given us Spanish language rules to post onto the website. It's available on the English side for all 4 organizations. So Carrie can talk a little bit more about this, but this is another, again, opening an additional point of access to people who need the help. And what it does is it asks them a series of questions to identify if it's a case that National Immigrant Justice Center would take, and if it is, they're invited to apply and fill out the information. And if not, they get diverted back to the self-help resources that are on the website already. So that's all I will share.
Okay, well, thank you. So thank you, Terry. I have to ask, how many of you knew about this online tool or were aware? So who would have thought the kind of access information online when it comes to immigration or legal aid, ayuda? ¿Cómo sabían, verdad? So just gives you an idea of why we have to be very conscious of what technology, the usage of technology. Tech equals access. I like that. So there's a cost. In terms of cost, you're saving money, and then it's the accessibility, getting the information, right? Which is essentially what we're looking for. I have to, before we go on, I have to recognize an individual who I have to recognize him because he is the reason why of many of our initiatives being very successful. He's been the chief sponsor of the in-state tuition. He's been also the chief sponsor to the driver's license and the DREAM Act. Our majority leader, Representative Eddie Acevedo. He's right here in the back. Just say hello. Thank you, Eddie, for being here. And I also just want to remind you, hashtag ILLCF 2015. How many have smartphones here? Raise your hand. Okay, let's use it. All right, and then just a reminder, there is evaluations at the back of the room. Please, we need these evaluations so that this helps us for the following year, what we need to maybe, any kind of recommendations, we're going to take it serious. So please, I ask that you fill out those evaluations. Our next speaker is Carrie. We're going to go by Carrie, is that okay? That's fine. Carrie, Associate Director of the Legal Services, provides leadership to NIGC's Immigrant Legal Defense. Okay, I got to decline that. Okay, so Immigrant Legal Defense Project and NIGC's I'm reading from my iPhone. Help desk, see, I'm being, yes. Project and NIGC Self-Help Desk at the Immigration Court. She provides legal representation to immigrants in removal proceedings and in applications for immigration benefits. As a formal Equal Justice Works Fellow, Carolyn specialized in representing immigrant victims of notary fraud. Carrie is an active member of the frequent presenter on immigration law. Before joining NIJC, she was the attorney advisor for the Immigration Court in Chicago. Carolyn is a graduate of the University of Iowa College of Law and is licensed in the state of Illinois. Let's give her a warm welcome. Carrie.
Thank you, Representative Hernandez, for that nice introduction. And thank you to Terry and Fred for their introductions. What Terry Ross was showing at the Illinois Legal Aid Online, that online intake tool, which connects to our organization, the National Immigrant Justice Center, but also other legal services. Our hope is that one day that would connect to more immigration legal services organizations throughout the state so that many people have access to that, and then it would help legal service organizations better serve the populations that we have. The one thing I think about when I see this tool, and what it does is people can go in, ask a legal question, and then they enter in their personal information, and then they can request an appointment with us for a consultation. I think about one woman who accessed this system and found us through it, and she was living in the far western suburbs in a very abusive situation with her teenage son. Very vulnerable situation, no access. She didn't have a vehicle to leave the apartment even. But she was able to find us through that service, and now she's out on her own, and she actually has lawful status. So we represented her in getting her out of that situation, her and her son's now in community college. So it's a way for really vulnerable groups, another access point for legal services, which is critical. So we're very grateful to the partnership to Illinois Legal Aid Online for providing that access for people. Now, technology here. I've got to try to find my PowerPoint on, here we go. Okay, so really quick, before we get started, I want to say a little bit about where I'm coming from. I am an immigration attorney at the National Immigrant Justice Center. We are a nonprofit organization based in Chicago, but we also have an office in Indiana, as well as a policy director in Washington, D.C. We have a staff of, now we're over 40 attorneys, BIA accredited representatives, which are non-attorneys, but who can also, they're authorized to provide legal advice and information, as well as paralegals. And through our organization, we do direct service, so we represent an individual cases one-on-one, but we also do policy work, communications, and outreach and education. One other thing, just really quick about our organization, is we are for individuals with household incomes of 200% or below the poverty line. So we're working with lower income or indigent clients. Now, the topic of the presentation today is to talk about what resources are available in this new age to help immigrants. And my focus is on immigration legal services because that's where I'm coming from, but there's a wealth of resources otherwise as well, and I'm sure many of the young students here probably have other websites in mind or apps or technologies that would contribute to this presentation as well. But what I've done here is listed some of the resources that I readily use, and I want to show you some of them to see what they have, what they offer to individuals. But this is a quick list, and if I can figure out how to get back to the internet, I wanted to really quick show you our website. What we offer is a lot of resources, both to immigrants and their families, but also to pro bono attorneys or to individuals who want to know more about the immigration debate and remain involved. So on our website here, first I'll show you under our immigrant resources, we do have resources in Spanish. We're not as Ileo has a nice feature where everything is translated from English to Spanish. We haven't been able to get there yet, but maybe someday we will. But here you'll see we have all these resources available in Spanish and English on various topics that we feel are important and necessary for people to know. And one page that has received a lot of hits is our Deferred Action for Dreamers, or the DACA resource hubs. And this is for the immigrant youth who were applying for deferred action and an employment authorization to remain in the United States. And on this hub, what we've done is through our clients and through our partners, we've put information on here that we've gotten feedback from people, telling us this is the information that would be helpful to me, so we've tried to add it here. So the one purpose of our website, obviously, is to give information. The other thing that's available is we do offer free DACA clinics for individuals who are applying for initial DACA or to renew their DACA. And to do that, we have a sign-in on our website. People sign up, they put their name, and then we contact that individual to do a detailed screening to make sure that it's safe to apply and also to answer any questions they might have. And then we pair immigrant youth with volunteer attorneys once a month at clinics to prepare their applications free of charge. So there are resources out there helping people apply for these benefits without having to pay a private attorney if you don't have the resources to do so. Some other things is on our website we do have a Take Action button if people want to be signed up for a listserv to receive information about actions or alerts. We have this. For example, with all the stuff in the news this week, we've been sending out a lot through our action list, and this is a way to keep updated. We also have action alerts on the administrative action. A year ago, this was announced, but what's the status of it now? So the internet is certainly a way to keep updated on information. I do want to show a few other websites. I would be remiss not to mention ICER, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. This is another extremely helpful website, especially for our region, both on state information and federal information, as well as citizenship workshops, which are still there. There are still some, and there's a calendar on here, and I'm sure Fred could say more about the website, but This is a trusted source of information, which it's critical that immigrants have access to those trusted sources, because there's a lot of other sources out there too that might have misinformation or even fraudulent information. One other website I wanted to point out is a website that's been created by a collaboration of organizations, and this is adminrelief.org. And if you're curious as to the organizations that have collaborated on this, they're all listed at the bottom of the page here. And most of these organizations, you could go to their individual websites and trust that they're going to be trusted sources of information. This website was created after President Obama's announcement last November, and it has information both for providers, for legal service providers. It has information for non-legal service providers, but for people in the community who want to help. And then it also has information for individuals. Do I qualify? What's the current status of this? This is a great place to go to get the information as to what is the current status of executive action. In addition, on this website, there is a point, how do I find legal help? I'm sorry, I'm doing this all in English. There is Spanish availability on here too. But the Find Legal Help offers a national database of legal service organizations. Therefore, anyone across the country could look in their state and find legal service providers available to them. Now, these providers, in order to be on this list, as I understand it, they either have to have an immigration attorney on staff or they need to be BIA, Board of Immigration Appeals recognized. So they went through a process to demonstrate that they have the necessary qualifications to provide immigration advice. So this is a trusted source of information, a good source of referrals. If there's a little community shop down your street and you want to see if they are really a nonprofit organization that's trusted, you could look at this website to see if they're listed here as a first step. So those are three of many websites that are out there, but I wanted to just point out that there are trusted sources of information available. The next thing I wanted to talk about is as we've moved into the technology, using more technology, what's really happened over the past few years is that there has been a movement towards online screening tools. And that is what tools exist to help people understand whether or not they qualify for relief. Our organization, after DACA was announced in 2012, we did create a tool specific for DACA. There was also a national effort that created the tool, which is under the We Own the Dream website now. That tool under We Own the Dream still exists, and what it does is it provides people an online screening where you answer a series of questions to determine if you may or may not qualify for that relief. Now, these tools are helpful, but there's got to be some caution there too, because you're communicating with a computer to determine legal eligibility, right? So when creating these tools, the creators were very careful and conservative in that if any answers came back that would suggest that that person might have an issue with their case, for example, if someone says that they were stopped by the police, that's a case where you probably should talk to an immigration attorney or a BIA accredited representative before going forward. So these tools give those advisals if you answer questions that show that there could potentially be an issue. But has anyone seen these online tools or used either the DACA tool or the citizenship tool? Okay. I mean, there's something you could go to. They're available on websites, but also in mobile apps. Under the mobile apps, it's Pocket DACA, and then also Citizenship Works is the citizenship one. These are still kind of in their newest phases, but if you go into them, they follow a technology that it's all branching logic. You ask questions to determine what's the next question, and if certain questions come back yes, such as an arrest or such as I was previously stopped by immigration, then you receive a printout saying these are all your answers and this is what you can take to an immigration attorney or BIA accredited representative. These can be very, very useful, but I think there's something, cookies or something on here. But to do this, all you have to do is go to those websites and you go through the questions to see if you may or may not be eligible. The apps I wanted to quick mention are the apps that I found, and there's likely multiple others out there, as this Pocket DACA and the Citizenship Works. There's also this app, the Imago, and on this Imago app, they're all free apps, but it has information about what's current news on immigration. It has screening tools for, not screening tools, but screening checklists for various forms of relief, such as a U visa for victims of crime, and it has little document lists that you might need to demonstrate that you're eligible. Now, again, these tools are not a substitute for legal representation, but they can help people be more informed about their options, especially before going to an immigration attorney or before talking to someone. They're designed to empower the immigrant community. I think there's going to be more apps as we go. People have talked about an app that perhaps if someone is apprehended by ICE, by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, what tools could they have in an app to say, this is how I should respond? You think about how you could use this technology to really help the community. I'm sure there are organizing apps that are out there which are critical. One thing that I don't have listed here, another aspect of technology that our organization has utilized a lot, is Facebook and Twitter. The ability to connect groups together using these, these resources, it's amazing how you can connect groups and get information out quickly. We find it extremely helpful. And most, I think, organizations now are using things like Facebook to communicate with both their potential clients and the community, but also funders and whatnot. The online intake, I wanted to give the sites here. This is a point for, at least for Illinois, if you would like to request services, immigration legal services, these are access points or websites that you could go to start that online intake. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention is there has been some movement in technology from the government perspective also. Some. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services is a government agency that receives the immigration applications and they decide the cases. They were going to be moving towards a lot of these applications available online where you could submit them online. That process has not been without challenges. And currently there's one application that you can submit completely online, and that's the application to renew your legal permanent resident card or to replace your legal permanent resident card. There's also an application online for people who are consular processing, so they're coming from abroad or have to process through their consulate abroad. But those resources are coming, and that's a positive move if it's available to the full community. For example, the consular processing application it's a mandatory online field, and for people who don't have access to that technology, that can be a real burden. Or it could create situations where you could have fraud in the community, people charging exorbitant amounts to fill out those forms or whatnot. But that is a direction immigration will be moving. The other thing I'd like to point out is, for example, under the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is the enforcement prong of immigration, they finally have an online detainee locator, which years ago it used to be the issue where a family member was detained and trying to figure out where that person was detained was a challenge. It's better today having this online locator. It's still not ideal, of course, but having that is important. So just in closing here, as we move towards more technology, we do have the potential to reach more immigrants, which it's critical, especially if there's comprehensive immigration reform. I'm talking about potentially 11 million people in the United States. We need to have information available so that if there is reform, everyone can take advantage of reform if they qualify. But I just want to point out that people's lives are unique and complicated. And many immigrants today have lived in the United States for long lives and have family members. And submitting a wrong application can lead to deportation and family separation. And that is not what anyone any of us want, right? So we need to be careful about where we take that technology and how far it goes, and making sure that there's still the one-on-one interaction available for people who want individual legal screenings. One last thing I'll throw out is with the DACA group, there was a national study that found that 14% of DACA eligible applicants actually qualified for more permanent forms of relief. I know we had people come in through our office who were coming in to ask about DACA, and after talking to them, we realized, no, you qualify for a U visa because you've been a victim of a crime, and a U visa is going to, if you are eligible, will give you a path towards U.S. citizenship eventually. So letting people make informed choices before they're submitting applications is critical, and knowing your options, right? So what options are available to you is critical. So there is still that need for that legal screenings or legal services, or working with an attorney or whatnot. And with that, I think that concludes my remarks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. This is really great information. I really like the whole fact of the connection, online connection between for legal services, the capability of that. That's news to me. I will tell you through these conversations, that's why this conference is so great, because it does bring new ideas. Our own website, we should be adding these kinds of informational links. So if our community is building trust, and that, we talked about trust a little bit, and that is a big factor. When they begin to build trust to a certain entity, I would like to think that the Latino Caucus is trustworthy based on the successes that we've had in bringing initiatives to our immigrant community. We should provide this information. Our website should reflect a lot of this work. So for me, this is going to be a project. So for next year, I can perhaps maybe introduce to you, look, you can seek out this information through our website. So one of the things I'm going to ask the presenters is if they would provide your presentations so that we can add it to our website. And that way, anything that you may have missed out here, you can look it up. Isn't that the way it should work, right? Okay, we have Isabel Martinez, who is our next speaker. And let me just tell you a little bit real quickly about Isabel. She graduated from the University of Illinois College of Law, Urbana-Champaign in June 2004. Was admitted to the Illinois Bar 2005. She practiced immigration law since then. Worked for the immigration firm for over a year, and then went on her own as of June of 2006. She's been a solo practitioner since then, and give her a warm welcome, Isabel Martinez.
Good morning, everyone. Obviously, all my colleagues have explained to you that technology, in this digital age, can help us and have access to information and resources to really improve, getting to where we need to be, especially our clients that are immigrants that want to be able to have immigration status, and getting this information can really get them there. However, when it comes to certain immigrants, they don't have access to technology. They don't know, even if they do have a smartphone, they don't know how to access that technology. And therefore, we still need to, at least as immigration attorneys and organizations, we still need to create hard copy materials to be able to give to immigrants in their language. As I said, obviously this technology, being able to go on a website and be able to screen to see if you're eligible for something is wonderful. But if someone is not able to access that, it's important to be able to give them information so that they can determine eligibility, or it's important for them to be able to speak to someone one-on-one to make this determination. I work with some churches, for example, or like the Mexican consulate to give presentations in person because, some of my clients have told me they don't know how to read, And so because where they, maybe they didn't have access to schooling in their small rural town or something. So a lot of the times giving them presentations in person where they can listen to how they might be eligible for something is also very important. And I know that they, a lot of these websites have access to do it in Spanish, to access the information in Spanish, but sometimes meaning can be lost in translation. Or, it's the person cannot ask further questions once they've read on it. So we do have technology. There is a limitation to technology that we have to take into account. Obviously having a lot of our young people are able to have this access, but I think that, a lot of my clients that come into the office, they appreciate the fact that they can, sit down with someone, be explained their rights, and be able to ask questions that can go beyond what they read. And sometimes, they read something in the online or in a newspaper. Oh, if you've been here for more than 10 years and you have children that were born here, I think that I'm eligible for something. Yeah, but they didn't know that maybe that didn't apply to them, or maybe that was because they had to be in front of an immigration judge. So the information is there, but unfortunately, it might be misinterpreted, or this is where a lot of people might be victims of fraud because they're told something, they read something, they thought it applied to them, they went ahead and maybe submitted an application, and at the end of the day, they could have maybe qualified for a green card. Oh, why did you apply for just a work permit? Maybe you could have, if you had spoken to someone in person, or you had, you had sought out to speak to someone else, then you might have determined that you might have been able to do this instead of just limited yourself to a work permit or something like that. A lot of the times too, I even to my young clients that are very technology savvy, they have paid for forms. Forms are free, and USAS has forms for free. Yet they've come to my office and they've told me, oh, I had to pay $300 on this website to access the DACA form, to fill it out online. And, that is really a lot of that technology. Yes, it's wonderful. It can, I'm pro technology, but there are going to be certain things especially there where we need to still educate immigrants that the internet, you might fall victim to a scam. You need to make sure that whoever you're getting this information from is a reliable website, or that this person is really an attorney, or that whatever form you're going to submit, because filling out a form is not, just because you can fill out the form doesn't mean that you're eligible to submit that form. A lot of the times, yes, forms are pretty self-explanatory, I understand, but there might be questions that you're answering incorrectly, or that might put you in jeopardy. Putting something on there, oh, I left the country when you weren't supposed to, or something, but you were just filling out the form online, or someone was helping you fill out the form without the without figuring out and doing an intake, sitting down with you and making sure that whatever answers you're giving are not going to make you, put you in jeopardy of maybe in front of a judge, putting you in deportation proceedings. I have a lot of clients that a couple of years ago, submitted paperwork and ended up in proceedings with no relief whatsoever, you know? Now they could have maybe at that, prematurely filed or something. So I think that technology is great, but there has to still be, hard copy materials that we give out to immigrants. Still give personal presentations for people that might not know how to read or access technology, and have like this personal outreach to people, so that we can prevent, fraud or clients being victims of fraud. I don't know. I think.
Okay.
I think that's
The main.
the main. Yeah.
Thank you, Isabel. I think that she hit some main concerns. I mean, I would like to consider myself a bit technology knowledgeable, but I come across, when I see my granddaughter, I'm like, oh my God, I got to catch up with her. However, you hit it on the nail. Even our young, those are techie savvy, fall into those situations where, because of inexperience or just there's exploitation that occurs, right? And that is one of the areas that really just bothers me to no end, and how we can get better at aiming that. So I would say we still must continue, yes, with bringing awareness and education. Always go by your gut. If something costs too much, it costs too much. And for me, that's why it's extremely important that we build trust. And how do we do that? And so I'm going to give it a try with the website. I'm going to work on this, try to develop a website where one can go and feel comfortable. It's an entity, it's a group, governmental, not costing. What we're looking is for those to be educated and for access to occur without really hitting your pocket, right? So how about a round of applause to our panelists? So next, what we're going to do, I'm going to open it to questions. I hope that you have, through these conversations or the presentations, you have put together a list of questions, and I dare to ask who's going to be the first person to come up and ask a question. Come on up. Please, if you will state. So there's a microphone at the center of the aisle. I will ask you if you will line up, and please state your name and where you're from. And if you want to address anyone in particular,
The whole
all
panel.
or the whole panel.
My name is Hector Flores. I'm from the retirement plan for the CTA employees, a former union officer. And the technology is wonderful, but the people behind the technology ripping off our immigrant when they come to ask for help, like $300 for documentation and stuff like that. I've experienced that through my stepfather from Cuba, and for 30 years he's been ripped off. And he lives in Puerto Rico right now, and it's a shame that he spent thousands of dollars in trying to get legalized. He finally is through the right road, the right path through Miami to get his citizenship. But I think the outreach has to come from those websites to the community that these tools are available. We have Univision, we have Telemundo, and I think maybe through the public service, they need to announce, hey, we're here. We're here to inform and to help you with these tools that we have. A lot of immigrants are afraid to reach out because, okay, they got my social, my numbers or whatever, then I'm tagged, and now I'm afraid to ask for help. I'm afraid to step up and say, I need this help. I'm being ripped off because of being afraid of deportation. And that's basically more of a statement in trying to get the technology to reach out to them for help, to let them know that we're here to help, not to tag you, not to deport you, but to help you.
Anybody? So it's more a comment or a question? Just want some.
For the panel or for the website just to come out and communicate more why they're here to help. It's not we're trying to identify you for deportation. Because a lot of people that I talk to, they feel that if I go on their website, I'm here now, I'm afraid that I'm going to be deported because I'm giving out my personal information to get help. So they're afraid to do that, to reach out to the websites.
Right. Anybody want to comment?
Yeah, I thank you for your comments. I think that's very important. Promotion of trusted sources of information in the community is necessary. The other thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned the person who was a victim of fraud. There's another website. It's called stopnotario.org. And it's in the presentation, which hopefully will be uploaded. But there are places that people can file complaints against fraudulent providers, and we really need people to do that. The Federal Trade Commission is a clearinghouse for a lot of those complaints. But there's also in the state of Illinois, we have both the Illinois Attorney General's office and also the city of Chicago has a department that hears complaints, and it's safe for people to file those complaints. Those offices don't talk to immigration about undocumented status, but the only way we're going to be able to shut down these fraudulent providers is to get people to file complaints, or even having, if you know of a business doing something wrong, like submitting that complaint with the information you have so that at least someone could be
Well, like the
investigated.
senator said, I mean, the trust and the fear, how do you break that barrier? You know, how do you break that, I'm afraid with the trust? We have to find a way to do that in order to have them to step up.
I
No,
agree.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, agree.
Good morning. Mercedes Fernandez. I'm the Latino Liaison Coordinator in Minority Languages at Evanston Township High School. This is a comment for the whole panel. We have the same problem that Attorney Martinez mentioned, because I think that we should work, using all these tools, but we have to pay attention to education. Education is key even for our parents. They are the one that need most to be educated in technology, because this is what happened. In a school that I'm not going to mention its name, administrators used to say, oh, I don't know why Latinos are not coming to this important event about scholarships. And I said, how was your outreach? Well, we posted the information on our website. Okay, that's why they don't show up. First of all, they don't know how to access our website. Our website is too hard to get information from. They don't speak English or read in English, or they don't even know how to read. So how do they expect people to come to our meetings or to our general assemblies if they don't do the education, information, translation, right? And at the same time, we need to work in this, let's say, workshops and all kind of services to the parents that have access to technology. Because we have two types of parents, the ones that have enough money to pay for internet services or for a computer at home, and the ones who don't even have electricity at home. Mm-hmm. So we have to consider both, mm-hmm. all our public, especially working with the Spanish community. This is something that happens in our community. We have to be very careful when we provide the services. We have to make sure that it gets to our parents and to all our parents if we are going to speak about equity. Mm-hmm. So that was my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna. Does anybody want to comment? Because I'm going to comment a little bit on that. Because go ahead.
I would only reinforce that point that schools, churches, other trusted institutions have a really important role to play. Above and beyond the availability of information, through websites and social media. I just wanted to second that point.
And I was just going there because that's where people trust your churches, and in particular, and it's just those groups that have already set a sort of a standing with the community that trust has been developed there. So it's looking for those entities that are already existing, but I would say faith-based is the most. It's like the number one that I find most people most trust. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
State your name and where you're from.
Okay, my name is Gabriela Arias, and I'm with UIC's Institute of Policy and Civic Engagement. And this is for the entire panel. It's a two-pronged question. The first part is, what do you see as the key elements in terms of like strategy and advocacy at the national policy level for that either you see already happening or key components that you think should be part of the strategy? And the second piece, for example, that sort of relates to, like for unaccompanied minors, that's a case law that's governing how they're processed through the system. And because it's a case law, we all know it's very ad hoc and arbitrary how that's working out. And even some of the permits that were awarded to them, they're not actually being processed currently, so.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure I understand the question because it's very broad.
It's a very broad question. My question has to do more with like advocacy efforts that are taking place for federal policies governing how immigrants are processed through the system, aka amnesty, like strategy efforts for amnesty or just for permits, because as unfortunately a lot of the programs, they're very arbitrary. My personal work has been with unaccompanied minors, and it's a case law, it's not a policy. So what does that mean? A lot of the times, there's no uniform way of processing children through the system here.
So let me just start with, we're limited at a state level because what you're talking about is a federal level.
Of course.
But how we have managed is to bring about the initiatives that would support the national intent of the paths. So for instance, and there's been some examples of initiatives, the DREAM Act, the temporary driver's license, but what we've recently, in terms of policy and how we can reach our community with language barrier is language access. So those initiatives have to be incorporated into the departments on how to address our community, that services are reaching them, that this is a community that's not being left out. Under this administration, that's what's been wiped out, something that has been a policy that has a structure actually that had been worked on for several years, put in place a structure, and it's in the Department of Human Services. So, for instance, welcoming centers and the funding that goes to immigrant services. And so we have worked over the years a sort of structure that would support federal immigration reform, and that has been wiped out. So right now we currently work with the groups. Basically, they're stretching as far as they can on their own without the funding, but we're looking for them to stay above water, I'll put it that way, in existence. We're trying to find innovative ways to keep them going. So I'm not sure if this is answering your question, because through the state, we are developing policies to try to reach our community and align or support what we're doing at the federal level. And some of the structure that we have built is what is, unfortunately, we're trying to really fight for that to stick, but that is what has been, this administration has not been very supportive of.
Thank you.
Does that help a little bit?
It does, yes. Thank you.
Anybody want to add?
Yeah. I would also only suggest that there are groups working on a broad range of issues, and in some cases very specific issues. So we're involved in many of these issues. NAJC is involved in many of these issues. Connect with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning. First of all, my name is Martha Virgin. I'm from the Latino Ethnic Awareness Association of College of DuPage. My question has to do more with, for the students in particular from the community, what is a way that they can be able to feel more comfortable towards coming towards us with DACA, with how they're going to be able to continue their education after community college? I just want to know ways where we can be able to give them more information and show them that there's ways of continuing their education no matter what their financial or citizenship status may be. So I guess this is open panel. I just want to know if there's any ways that we can be able to help our students from our college.
We actually just updated our guide for undocumented students over the summer. So if you go on our website and search for that document, unfortunately our website is not very easy to navigate. Shame on us, but we did update the guide over the summer. There's a student version and there's a counselor version as well, and the information in there should be fairly current. It even includes the references to the Student Access Bill that Rep. Hernandez was talking about. So that has a lot of information about, particularly, a nice appendix describing the different policies at many of the four-year colleges throughout the area. So, take a look at that, and I hope that helps.
It does. Okay.
Let me just add, the Access Bill, there's something there that we have to keep a very close watch, because it's ignited, I feel, it's ignited a lot of the students within our universities. There's momentum, there is movement there. So I think that because of this bill, there is an experience our students are getting out of this that would, my hope that this will continue, that something even more can come out of this. So I'm taking a really close look at what's going on. I'm really just thrilled to no end on the involvement, and these are kids from universities throughout the state. So I think just keep it up, and I'm listening to what they're saying, because this bill was not my bill. Okay, this bill was given to me by the students. So, all right, so just keep it up. We're learning from you. So this is something, there's something there that's going to evolve. It's momentum.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Just before we go to the next question, I just wanted I don't think he's here, but Director Rocco Claps was here. Is he around here, or did he leave? Okay, he was here a little bit earlier. He's the director of the Department of Human Rights, and I just wanted to recognize, because in this day and within these past few days, you have all heard, I'm sure, of the pretty much of the shutting of the closing the doors on Syrian family or Syrian refugees. He has his plate full right now, the Director of Human Rights. I'll comment on that a little bit later. I do want you to stick around because I do have a message. But please, the next question.
All right, thank you. Mine's more of a comment, but my name is Daniel Arroyo. I'm also a college student at College of the Page and part of the LEA program. And mine is more about the information that's exposed to our college campuses and how it is exposed. Because in all honesty, a lot of the information you guys presented today is not well known throughout college, and especially community colleges, which I think is more of an issue, especially because we have a lot of immigrants who go to these community colleges because it is cheaper, it is more convenient for them, especially if there are working jobs and anything like that. And if we have more exposure to these types of information, it would better the situation for them, especially, knowing the information that we know today, like on all the help and providing all these assistance to them, which would, better our exposure to like helping people who are, immigrants, but who need this information. That was more of a comment that I had. So my question would be, how would you better the exposure in community colleges specifically to get this information out there?
Yeah.
I'll take that. So outreach is a problem, right? So everybody knows, well, maybe not everybody. We have a lot of young people here. So Field of Dreams, right? There's this line where he says, if you build it, he will come, right? And that's not true, right? We have to do outreach. We have to do marketing. We have to reach out to the people who we aim to serve, right? And that is a challenge when you create a legal information website that's designed to serve the people of Illinois, right? So we have a full-time outreach person on our staff, but we have difficulty sort of identifying, she could just go out and speak all the time, but is that the best use of her time, right? So how do we prioritize her outreach efforts? And so I would love to, to get suggestions. We have partnered with some community colleges in the past, and it's been to somewhat mixed results. I don't know, part of it is it's hard to track the impact of your outreach. So that's certainly a challenge. But it is, I wholeheartedly agree with you that it's really important to do it, right? And that goes to the building trust that we keep hearing as a theme running through these questions and comments.
Thank you.
So I'm going to throw this at you. You brought it up.
Go ahead.
Take leadership. Do something about it. Because really it starts there. It's recognizing the problem that's occurring within your campus. Do something about it. Reach out, and you can start by reaching out to my office, okay? Because that's where it begins. You recognize, hey, wait a minute, but we're not reaching the information. So I view you came to this conference, you're being fed the information, you recognize the problem, take it on. I encourage you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karina Magana. I am part of the College Democrats of Benedictine and part of Representative Hernandez's YICE program. I actually kind of wanted to have a question for the whole panel, if you guys want to answer it, based on Representative Hernandez's previous comment on the Syrian refugees. During this week, it's been quite eventful. Our current governor has said we would be closing the borders. My school has a very large population of Muslim students, and on Twitter and Facebook, I have seen quite an uproar of just the anger that this statement from the governor brought up. My question is, how can we do something to have him take it back in a way, to say we shouldn't be turning away refugees, people who are running away from terrorism, and a group of psychopaths who are just killing people. So how could we do that through Facebook, through Twitter? How do we reach those people who are in that ignorant mindset that this is what he said is something that the state should be doing?
Thank you so much for that question. That's very, that takes courage to come up and speak on that. So my congratulations actually to you. That's great. I will comment, but does anybody want to comment?
Take it first.
Well, I'm very upset on the reaction of the state. And so as legislators, yes, there is a few of us who have been having a conversation on doing maybe perhaps submitting a resolution. There's a few things that we can do. But I think, again, I'm going to encourage all those who are here. I'm sorry that I did not comment on this earlier, but all of us have a role on this. And so what is occurring here is a fear and a dividing of a nation. And so what we really have to recognize that the creation of fear by closing borders and not continue with our normal lives is not only going to create fear, but from fear creates racism. Okay, so we need to get the message across through social media, just the same way, but in a manner that we have to come together and not let them take over by placing this blanket of fear across. And it's just upsetting to see that some of the leadership among the states have taken on taking it on in this way, because it's just unsettling and it unsettles people, and that is just it's disgusting in the way I see it, because it's a media ploy to get attention. And in the meantime, what's occurring is our nation is being divided and there's fear being placed. We need to know that we have to live. If we take on fear, or if we accept that, then we've lost it. So we need to continue our normal lives. This must not interrupt our everyday lives. And it's up to us to take some role and some responsibility on this. So I publicly will encourage everybody to take a role, use social media, and say, hey, keep just doing what you're doing, and denounce what the governor is doing, because he's only creating more of a division here, more of fear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Sofía Santos, formo parte del equipo de asesor latino en la escuela ITH de Evanston. Quería pedirles con todo respeto si para la próxima vez podría haber algún intérprete, pues a mí se me hace muy importante estos temas y quiero compartirlos con mi comunidad y pues este es mi segundo año, pero yo quiero que mi comunidad sepa también y que pues desgraciadamente no todos podemos asistir aquí y yo quiero llevar más información a mi comunidad, a mi equipo. Quiero que todos estemos informados, pues todo esto para mí es muy importante y quiero compartirlo.
Seguro
Gracias.
que sí. So muy bien, muchísimas gracias. So the request for those who do not speak Spanish is that if we can have some interpreters for those who cannot really fully understand English, and I think that is most it's only right, especially since this is a conference that is focused on Latinos. That is likely that the majority. Or many speak Spanish, sometimes only Spanish, right? So, muchísimas gracias y sí, de acuerdo.
Anybody else? We do have some resources today from our organization in both English and Spanish. Tenemos algunos recursos hoy que están en español, en inglés, sobre algunos tipos de beneficios de inmigración. Entonces, si alguien quiere formas en papel, no tecnología, pero en papel, yo puedo darlos. So I do have some forms today, fact sheets on different immigration services that are available to people in both English and Spanish, and I'm happy to distribute.
Sí. Y yo bueno, sí comenté más que la información, las presentaciones que se enseñaron, los íbamos a poner en el website. Iba a pedir que hacíamos eso, no lo hemos hecho. Y voy a ver si podemos también tener un como tipo de translation también. Sí, cómo no. Okay, we'll take two more. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is William Lopez. I'm from National Louis University. I work in the provost office, but I'm also a master's student in public policy and administration. Through your presentation, and this actually coattails her comment, is that it's more of a suggestion / comment, and then I'll have a question. I saw that technology, yes, is very important, and it is important to have it in both languages. But one thing that I do urge is to please revise the language, please revise the grammar and the spelling. Even in the websites that were shown, I did see grammar and spelling mistakes, and these are things that cut trust. They hurt trust, because if they're not in these language, they're not correct language, then it just kind of feels like an afterthought. So here's our English one, and it's all perfect. But when we get to Spanish, we're like, I don't understand this.
Thank you.
So I do urge you to revise your websites. Second, websites, especially government websites, are very difficult to navigate. And I would like to know what your organizations are doing to provide websites that are a little more easy to navigate. And a lot of our, like you said, we use smartphones, and a lot of websites don't translate into smartphones. So zooming in and zooming out and clicking is really hard. So I'd like to know what, if you guys are doing that, if you actually do review your websites every once in a while to see how you can, make them better or user-friendly. And are you using the community to address their needs? So are the websites also using, user feedback? I think that's important as well. It's just not shoving information in our faces, but knowing what we actually do need and want on our websites. Thank you.
So those are all great questions. So first of all, I want to know if you'd be willing to be a volunteer for us on the Spanish side.
Of course.
Thank you. So we do have something called a quality assurance process. We call it QA, and the content is supposed to be reviewed. One of the struggles that we had to address early on when we created the Spanish website was to determine whether, in the words of my colleague Dennis Rios, who this is his website, said we have to decide whether we're going to do New York Spanish or California Spanish, right? And so we looked at the census data and we said, well, we have to do California Spanish. And so that was some of the decisions that were made in terms of the language and the style are there. In terms of the navigation and what's known in the website world as usability, right? So making sure that the website is usable. And in its current format, it's not very usable. We are in the process of redoing the entire website. We have done numerous user tests. So if you go out to the website at any given time, there may be a little survey that pops up that says, are you willing to help us out? Take this little user test for us. Help us test out our navigation. Help us test out our labels, and those kinds of things. So we're paying a lot more attention to that, knowing that it does no good to have the information there if nobody can find it, right? Or if it's not in a language or in a label or a title that they can understand. And so we are testing all of those things as part of the system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, we appreciate your questions. I like your card too, if you don't mind. Hello there.
Hello there. This question goes to the panel and to the representative, of course. So your websites.
Name and where you're from.
Oh, of course. Okay. My name is Mateo Uribe. I am a student at the University of Illinois Chicago, part of the Fearless Undocumented Alliance.
And I have to say, the brave man who came before the committee to speak on the access bill, and he did a remarkable job because that bill passed out of the committee, and that was with the MAP grant. So this is the young man that all should know. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So my question for you all is, your websites contain resources and advice for existing laws. However, there are members of the community who actually want to be part of the policy advocacy, part of the social movements, part of the community events and organizing. Is it in your forecast of your website to actually promote such events, to actually not only promote them and get people involved in these movements, but also connect like these grassroots nonprofit collaboratives, connecting nonprofits, grassroots, and people together? Because what I see in your websites, they're amazing and they're translated, but there are great things that are happening right now, like the Access Bill, that we have a website that students made so people can access and look at stories to see how they can get involved. And using your websites would be great, would be amazing, would actually provide a lot of traffic towards a lot of this policy advocacy that people want to get involved with. But since your websites are the first websites that a lot of our community will go to first, will your websites actually provide links to websites such as the Student Access website?
I think one thing we certainly learned, especially with DACA, is working together with the community is the way to reach people. We need you. Even with executive action, when that was first announced, the model that came forward is the only way we're going to be able to get information to everyone out there is to work so that community groups can go out and train their communities. They're the trusted sources. So having links back and forth to trusted websites is critical. Certainly you could please reach out to us, and we would be happy to consider. Our DACA page was really developed in large part with a lot of the DACA interns and employees that have worked with us and helped create what are the resources that are most important. So we need to hear from the community, I think.
And as a follow-up, we have information to give you all.
Awesome.
To put on your websites.
Awesome. Do you know what? I am going to have to close it down. Is there any other comments? Because I didn't realize how late it was, and we have to move into the luncheon. It's going to be starting right now, the luncheon. Is there any further questions?
Okay, actually, to the young woman who was talking about Syrian refugees, we're having a press conference at 1 o'clock, so watch the news for that. We're going to post it on our website, and retweet, repost, just get the facts out. Call out the hate, call out the bullying.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this panel. Lots of good questions, great information. Let's try to get this information on the website.